Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about my picks for the best Stephen King horror movies of all time. So to compile this list, I decided to exclude any made-for-TV movies like Salem's Lot, which is one of my favorites ever, or any series. I stuck with just movies because there's just so many to pick through as it is, and that would just kind of muddy the waters. Also, just keep in mind, these are just my picks. That doesn't mean I'm saying it is the right list or anything like that. These are just my favorites. But I would love to know, what are your picks? What are the Stephen King movies that you would put on your list? But with that, let's get to the list.
Back up!
If you don't wake up, you're gonna die.
Gerald's Game is a 2017 psychological horror movie, co-written and directed by Mike Flanagan, based on a story by Stephen King. It stars Carla Gugino and Bruce Greenwood. The story focuses on a married couple on holiday at an isolated house. But when the husband dies of a sudden heart attack, it leaves the wife handcuffed to the bed. So she must find a way to survive while battling her inner demons.
Gerald? What? What's happening? Gerald?
This is such a harrowing, intense, absolute nail-biter, pressure cooker type of movie. Because with the combination of the directing style of Mike Flanagan, as well as him writing the script, and then you take that with the core story being well written by Stephen King, it's just a match made in heaven. Mike Flanagan's directing style is just perfectly matched with Stephen King's writing style. Hopefully down the road, we'll see Mike Flanagan do more Stephen King. But in this, you also have an incredible performance from Carla Gugino. Her performance is so moving and gripping. The emotional ride that she takes you on in this is so disturbing. Besides that, this is one of the more dark and disturbing and flat out uncomfortable of any of the Stephen King adaptations. So even though this is a pretty small scale production, much more than a lot of the movies on this list, it's definitely one of my favorites. And so if it's one you haven't seen, I think you absolutely should add it to your list.
We want the boy.
You try it.
Kill him!
The Mist is a 2007 cosmic horror movie, directed by Frank Darabont and based on the 1980 novella of the same name by Stephen King. It stars Thomas Jane, Laurie Holden, and Marcia Gay Harden. A freak storm unleashes a species of bloodthirsty creatures on a small town, where a small band of citizens holed up in a supermarket must fight for their lives. This movie is just wild. I love the look of it, the style of it. It definitely has all the things I really love in a cosmic horror movie, because there's so much mystery to it and that sense of the unknown, because the way they use the fog in this and not knowing what else is out there, and then as you venture out into it later on in the movie, you start to get an idea of more and more of what could be out there, and it's just so damn creepy. Besides that, you have some extremely powerful performances in this. I would even go as far as to say this might be Thomas Jane's best performance, because without spoiling it for anybody out there that hasn't seen this, the directions that it takes and the amount of emotions and horrifying things that happen, especially to Thomas Jane's character, just are absolutely insane. But the end of this, for anybody out there that has seen this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is one of the most terrifying endings of any movie, and it's really interesting too, because Stephen King did not write his book with this ending. This was changed for the movie, but Stephen King has said that he wishes that he had written this ending because he thinks it is so much better than the way he ended it. But if you like creatures and creepy cosmic horror and have never seen The Mist, do yourself a favor and check it out.
Oh, this is going to be an entirely new experience.
Creep show.
Creepshow is a 1982 anthology horror movie, directed by George A. Romero and written by Stephen King in his screenwriting debut. It stars Adrienne Barbeau, Leslie Nielsen, and Ted Danson. 5 terrifying tales from a kid's comic book about a murdered father rising from his grave, a bizarre meteor, a vengeful husband, a mysterious creature in a crate, and a plague of cockroaches.
You'll scream, ghastly ghouls. Cringe at weird kids. And shiver at the doings of evil doctors.
This is such a classic. It is amazing because it really is the blueprint for how to do an anthology horror movie. Every segment in it is unique and different, and yet they still fit together in a great way. There's this element where it is creepy and horror for sure, but it's also funny and never takes itself so serious that you're not having fun with it as well. But there's so many timeless moments in this, visuals and things that happen in it that you'll just never forget. It's one of those quotable movies that any fan of horror will know. It's so entertaining as well as very memorable in the way that the costumes are done, the way it's shot, the lighting. There's these bright contrasted colors that give it almost a cartoon aesthetic. Also, the way that each segment is connected together, giving even more of this comic book feel. And it's really difficult for me to pick what my favorite segment of this is, but it's probably the monster in the crate one, or honestly, I don't know, man. Like the Stephen King one, the meteor one is so much fun. Also, the practical effects in this done by Tom Savini are amazing. Just so many iconic visuals. They're gross, they're gory, they're weird, disturbing, uncomfortable. Like, this movie really has it all. And so when I was putting this list together, there was no doubt in my mind that Creepshow had to be on it. Christine is a 1983 supernatural horror movie, directed by John Carpenter and written by Stephen King. It stars Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, and Alexandra Paul. A nerdish boy buys a strange car that has an evil mind of its own, causing his nature to change to reflect it.
We're not finished yet!
I recently saw this in a theater. It might have been last year. I don't know. It wasn't that long ago. And it just blew me away how well this movie still holds up, how incredible it looks. There's so many imaginative practical effects, ways that they're able to accomplish some of these visuals in this that is just still mind-blowing to this day on how they did that. Like how the car fixes itself and the way they were able to do that. If you ever get the Blu-ray or even on YouTube, you can find how they did that, and it shows you behind the scenes. It's really, really cool. Because with CGI today, an effect like that isn't all super impressive. I mean, we see things done with CGI now that are way more crazy than that. But when you think about that they used a real car and this is practically done and there wasn't just some CGI to fix all this in post kind of deal, it's really cool. The biggest thing I appreciate about this movie is how well it does at just showing you this character slowly breaking down, and you can easily substitute the car for drug addiction or for anything that you just give your entire being to. It could even be a religious cult or some type of belief. I mean, there are so many things that you see people slowly devolve, and this does as good of a job really as anything of showing that. It's also one of those movies that a lot of people forget is John Carpenter, because this is a Stephen King movie. Everybody thinks of it as a Stephen King movie, but it's like, well, actually, you know, it was directed by John Carpenter, and it's one of his better movies as far as directing goes. But as the movie goes, it gets really dark and disturbing, and I think much more than you might remember if it's been a while since you've seen it. Either way, I just think this movie is a real classic that definitely deserves to be on this list.
If you have a taste for terror, you have a date with Carrie.
Carrie is a 1976 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Brian De Palma, it's based on the 1974 novel of the same name by Stephen King, and stars Sissy Spacek, Piper Laurie, and Amy Irving. A shy, friendless teenage girl who is sheltered by her domineering religious mother unleashes her telekinetic powers after being humiliated by her classmates.
Oh, sorry about this incident, Cassie.
It's Carrie!
This has always really got to me because, not to get too in detail, but I had a very similar upbringing to this in a lot of ways. My mother was very domineering and really extreme in her religious beliefs. And because of that, myself, as well as the rest of my family, went through a lot of abuse, as well as just being very, very sheltered. And so the situation here, especially the mother in this, is hauntingly familiar to me, to the point where it just gives me chills right now thinking about it. It's one of those few movies that still really disturbs me and scares me because of that PTSD, so to speak, type of element about it. Besides that, the performances here are absolutely incredible, especially Sissy Spacek. It's still to this day one of the best horror performances we've ever seen. Beyond that, it's a masterclass in directing. Just the way the tension is built, the way the story progresses, the pacing, all of that is superb. And even though it is dated at this point, and if you're a younger audience out there, I get this is a pretty old movie for you, I still think it's definitely worth your time, because not only as a cinephile and just wanting to see where horror comes from, which I recommend anybody and everybody do, besides that, just the actual core to this story, what it's saying and how it all breaks down, and human nature and all of those things, and the way it shows abuse from bullies as well as from your home life and things like that. The way it's handled and the way this story unfolds is still extremely poignant and powerful today. But yeah, this is a masterpiece and still, in my opinion, one of the best horror movies ever made. It is a 2017 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Andy Muschietti, it's the first of a two-part adaptation of the 1986 novel of the same name by Stephen King, and stars Bill Skarsgård, Jaden Martell, and Finn Wolfhard. In the summer of 1989, a group of bully kids band together to destroy a shape-shifting monster which disguises itself as a clown and preys on the children of Derry, their small town in Maine.
Way worse.
To this point, we have still never seen a Stephen King movie with more of a cultural impact than this one. The amount of money it made, the amount of people that have seen this, I mean, Pennywise became a household name after this film was released. And it may not be perfect, but I think this movie is so damn good and holds up so well today. And yeah, part 2 was a little bit of a letdown. It was too long, it had its issues, okay? I'm not even talking about that movie, but this one by itself, when it came out, and I know it's not a complete story because you need that part 2 to finish the story of it, still, I think this one is just so good. Bill Skarsgård alone is just incredible as Pennywise. And even though I have more nostalgia and more love for that original TV miniseries, I do think this is better in so many other ways. Because besides some of the CGI in this that I could definitely live without, this is a really well done movie. It's paced well. The cast is incredible in this. They did such a good job of casting this movie. It's creepy and haunting, as well as impactful and moving. You really care about all the characters involved in this. And to me, that's what makes some of the best of any Stephen King movies, are how do they do with the characters? Do you care about the characters? Is there an emotional connection that you feel for them? Because that is what Stephen King does, as well as just about anybody, is write these interesting characters. Besides that, the visuals are awesome. The costume design, the setting, the locations, all that is great. Yeah, so like I said, some of that CGI is not the greatest, but the practical effects that they do and everything else as far as the visuals in this are incredible. It also has a really good score that makes you feel every single scene, and it takes you on this emotional ride as much as the visuals in it. And at the time of recording this, I have yet to see Welcome to Derry. It just came out, and I definitely plan to see that and maybe cover it on the channel, but I'm really excited to check that out. And that's something that'll hopefully add to the lore and story of it, not hurt or tarnish it. But I love Pennywise. I love the story of it, the different characters, the kids. I can definitely see myself in this movie in a lot of ways, especially with the bullying scenes. But there was definitely no way I was going to do this list without including it.
And no finish line.
The Long Walk is a 2025 dystopian thriller directed by Francis Lawrence with a script written by J.T. Molnar. It's based on the 1979 novel by Stephen King and stars Cooper Hoffman, David Johnson, and Mark Hamill. A group of teenage boys compete in an annual contest known as the Long Walk, where they must maintain a certain walking speed or be shot.
Second warning. Third warning.
So going into this movie, I didn't know much of anything about this. I had avoided the trailers. I think I saw one, the earliest one, where it was just kind of a sneak peek of what this movie was, and I was sold. I mean, for one, the screenplay was written by J.T. Molnar, who did one of my favorite movies last year, Strange Darling. So you had that going for it, and then it's based on a story by Stephen King. So I was definitely in. But I had no idea how dark and disturbing, how intense and just powerful this movie was going to be. And it's a shame because it's been kind of overshadowed this year by a lot of these other movies that made a lot more money in theaters. And I get it, because this is not one of those mainstream kind of films. It's way too dark and twisted and disturbing to be a mainstream film. Besides that, when it came out, there was a lot of tragedy happening in the real news. That also made all of us not really wanting to go see a depressing downer of a movie. But I'm telling you, this is without a doubt one of the best movies this year. It is incredibly well done. The performances, especially David Johnson, I knew he was a talented actor. I really enjoyed him in Alien Romulus last year, but I did not expect him to be able to take it to this level. The emotional ride he takes you on, from funny to scary to sad to, I mean, you name it, the emotions this character goes through and how well he performs that are really, really impressive stuff. It's also wild because it's such a simple concept. I mean, the synopsis is basically it. That is the movie, but I don't know. It's hard to explain until you see it, but this movie, you're never bored. You're never wondering, when's this going to be over or anything like that. I mean, you are invested, you are engrossed into this from moment one. And it is such a nail biter, so intense, because even though these teenage boys are going to get shot and the majority of them are going to die, every single time it's weird. It like catches you off guard in a way. And the brutality, the intensity of it, the violent nature that this movie is shot in and comes at you is really, really, really disturbing. So at the time of recording this, it is finally available streaming, but it is $19.99. So, maybe hold off a little bit. I think it's coming to HBO Max or definitely streaming before too long. So I'm not saying you need to go spend $20 to see it. That's up to you. What I am saying is that it's one that I highly, highly recommend.
God's...
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Misery is a 1990 psychological horror movie. Directed by Rob Reiner, it's based on Stephen King's 1987 novel of the same name and stars Kathy Bates and James Caan. After a famous author is rescued from a car crash by one of his fans, he comes to realize that the care he is receiving is only the beginning of a nightmare of captivity and abuse.
Oh, Paul, I've read everything of yours, but the Misery novels. You must be a good man, or you could never have created such a wondrous, loving creature as Misery Chastain.
Holy hell, this movie still holds up. The performance from Kathy Bates by itself is the reason to see this. Besides that, it's well written, well shot, I mean, everything about this is one of the greatest movies, period, out there. I mean, it is an absolute classic. But besides that, the story, the premise, like what this movie is about, is as important and powerful as it's ever been, because society's obsession with famous people is out of control. I mean, there are people, not going to say any names of famous people and their fans. I'm not going to point anybody out in particular, but like some people make it their entire identity. It's like an obsessive thing where people treat certain famous people like they're God, a part of their religion sort of thing. It's just wild. And this movie nails it. The obsession nature of this, the way it deals with it and talks about it, as well as how horrifying and creepy it is. Yeah, it's just done as well as you can. And I forget exactly what all Oscar buzz this movie got, but I do know Kathy Bates was nominated and she might have won an Academy Award for this, but this movie was at least recognized at the time as being very, very special. So this isn't by any means like a hidden gem or one that flies under the radar. But if you're out there and it's been a while since you've seen this, or if for whatever reason you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out. The Shining is a 1980 psychological horror movie, co-written, produced, and directed by Stanley Kubrick. It's based on the 1977 Stephen King novel of the same name, and stars Jack Nicholson, Danny Lloyd, and Shelley Duvall. A family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter, where a sinister presence influences the father into violence, while his psychic son sees horrific visions from both past and future. So I was very torn if I was going to include this on this list or not, because Stephen King has kind of disowned this movie, and it's a very famous documented thing where, you know, he felt like it was changed so much that it really isn't his story anymore at all. And I get that from his perspective, but there's enough here that it's at the very least inspired by a Stephen King story and is thought of as a Stephen King adaptation. No matter what, there is no arguing the importance on film history this has had, how well done of a masterpiece this is. Everything from the directing of Stanley Kubrick to the acting of Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. I mean, this is just a masterclass on a film. Besides that, it's been so influential. I mean, it has influenced everybody in horror. But I do understand that a lot of younger people, a modern audience, might go back and watch this and not get the impact from it and be as disturbed and freaked out by it as anybody who kind of grew up with this, or at least saw it back when they were younger. But as far as just a cinephile, as far as just how to make a movie, I don't see how you could argue that this is a well-made movie. But I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody has seen this and everybody gets how impactful and important it is. But I just love the look. I love the style, the creepy, cold, haunting nature of it. It is so isolated feeling and just gives this creepy, ominous vibe from the musical score in the beginning all the way to the icy, wintry ending. This movie is just the epitome of haunting. So you could definitely argue if it's a real, true Stephen King adaptation. But as far as I go, I'm going to count it, and it's definitely one of the best movies ever made and one of my favorites for sure.
Stephen King's all-time best-selling tale of horror. Pet Sematary.
The Pet Sematary is a 1989 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Mary Lambert, it's adapted from Stephen King's 1983 novel of the same name, and stars Del Metcalf, Fred Gwynne, and Miko Hughes. After tragedy strikes, a grieving father discovers an ancient burial ground behind his home, with the powers to raise the dead.
What did we do tonight, Judd?
What we did, Lois, was a secret.
So when I was putting this together, there was one movie that 100%, there was no doubt this was going to be on it, because It's my first horror movie. It's the first genuine, real horror movie that I saw and made me fall in love with horror as well as get freaked out. I couldn't sleep, bad dreams, like the whole works for a long time from this movie, but I loved it at the same time. It's so creepy, it's so ominous and moving. The performances, I mean, Fred Gwynne is incredible in this role, but just the haunting nature of it. It's shocking, surprising, and there are so many scenes in it that are just flat out scary. Like, there's no other way to put it. They're just terrifying. And sure, there probably is bias for me, the nostalgia element and all that. There's no way for me to see this movie in a clear, true way. So, I mean, if you didn't see it when you were younger or whatever, I could see you having issues with this and saying it's not a very good movie, whatever. I can only speak for what I know and in my world and from what I saw. And not to say this is the best Stephen King. That's not what this list is. If I were to look at these movies objectively, it would be a different list. But this is a list of what are my personal favorite Stephen King movies. And so when I think about Stephen King horror movies, this is the first that jumps to mind. Just the eerie, scary, creepy, moody, atmospheric style of this movie is what I think of. And so without a doubt, this is my favorite Stephen King horror movie ever made. But tell me down in the comments, what are your personal favorites and what are the ones that you think I missed and should have been on this, or maybe I haven't even seen them, who knows. Either way, thank you so much for watching this. Thank you for October. It's been a great month. This hopefully is going to be out on Halloween Day for you guys, as long as everything goes according to plan, but you never know. But hopefully you're watching this on Halloween, and if so, happy Halloween. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun, and I'll see you all next time.